Shalom, this is Shira Sherbo coming to you from Sfat, Israel. You know, when you grow up in the West, like over in the United States, and then you live here in the Middle East, in Israel, you end up with a lot of humorous stories about how things get lost in translation. My husband was telling me about when he came over here as a teenager in the 60s. He asked for a slice of pizza. You know, he went into this restaurant and there was this little handmade sign that said, "We now have pizza." So he told me what they gave him back in the 60s: a half a bagel, some melted cheese, and a slice of tomato. So it was like, here's your pizza. And so I think it's just funny how two people can say the very same word, like pizza, and have totally different concepts of what that means. And that's what happens when you live in different cultures in different parts of the world. And for me, I had to find out what, there's no concept of anyone being late over here. The concept of time, punctuality that we grow up with in the West, it doesn't exist over here. So you always have to make sure if you're doing things Middle Eastern time where you'll just get a blank stare from someone if you say, "Why are you late?" They'll be like, "What, late? What's that?" No. And so anyway, it's a little different concept over here, a little more laid back when it comes to punctuality. So you figure that out after a while. And but one of the most amusing things is when something that in the Western culture would be considered so rude, over here it's just like it gets all turned around to a whole different definition of, you think they're being rude, they think you're being rude. Like in the West, in the United States, if you park your car and someone parks behind you and blocks you in, well, you're just like, that is so rude. I can't believe you did that. And some people even call a tow truck on the person, So over here, it's an everyday occurrence. One time we even had this guy, say, "Just move my car. I left it running." So he was mad at us that we didn't know we were supposed to move his car. Instead of, we're thinking, I think we're the ones that should be mad at you because you're blocking us in. So anyways, things get turned around, upside down. Different concepts of what a word means. Somebody could say, "That's a 6," and somebody else who's standing over there from a different perspective will say, "No, that's a 9." And so it's really hard to have any kind of communication with this thing going on. And so it's interesting though, in the U.S., this is one of everybody's favorite road trips is like from Chicago to LA, Route 66, and it just so happens that here in Israel, if you come over here, the most interesting and scenic route is Route 99, and it takes you up to the Golan Heights. So I thought, well, speaking of different perspectives, so if you come over here to see us, we'll take you to Route 99, and they do know how to make pizza now a lot better than that. They've learned along the way. So, when it comes to learning about God, and we've been talking about emptying our cup, because we know that in our culture, from our perspective, things might be different. Things have gotten changed along the way. And so we have to, if we want to learn, we might have to see it through the eyes of another perspective. So we have an interesting thing going on here at Torah for the Nations, because I grew up in the Western Christian world, and now I'm over here in the Middle East. And my husband is Jewish, and I recently converted to Judaism, but I spent, my whole life in Christianity. So we make a unique team. He speaks Hebrew, and he's a Torah teacher. And so if you're watching this, you probably have gotten the idea. And in the end, everybody is going to get this idea that, if we want to really know who God is, we need to get back to the original language and get the original perspective, because, we're starting to see that things have gotten lost in translation along the way. So we make an interesting team of having the different perspectives of living over there, living over here, growing up in one world, now seeing everything from a different perspective. So you can contact us at Torah for the Nations if you want to ask questions and find out things from the Hebrew perspective. But one of the things I wanted to say was that, in the end, God says that every single creature who walks the earth, every single one of us, will recognize and know him. So when I was a little girl, my dad took us to the movies to see on the big screen the story of Moses and God talking to Moses in the burning bush and telling Pharaoh to let my people go. And everybody knows the story of the 10 plagues and the parting of the Red Sea. And so God comes down on Mount Sinai and he gives us his word, and the whole world knows who God is. And I think the Egyptians had 500 gods at that time, but the world had gods, but they finally got to see the one true God who said, I am who I am, and I will be who I will be, and he doesn't change throughout time. So God comes down, and it's like a marriage between heaven and earth, and it's this one-time event in history where heaven meets earth, and God gives his word to the world. And so how did God make sure that it didn't get changed over time? Because here we are 3,500 years later, and if it gets translated into another language or it gets in another culture, then we're going to have the same problem that we had with the pizza and with everything else. And so what God did was he told this nation of Israel on Mount Sinai, he said, you cannot change one dot, one comma, one space, one letter. You cannot, everything has to be exact. And we were talking about how the Hebrew language is like a chemistry formula or a mathematical equation. You can't change one dot or it changes the whole thing. You can't change anything about it. It's alive and breathing, and it has to be exact. So in order to do that, this nation of Israel has been in charge of, you hire scribes. It's very expensive to get a Torah scroll. This is what a Torah scroll kind of looks like. But when they're copied from one to the other, it's a very painstaking work. You can't change anything. I think it's about $10,000 to make a Torah scroll. So the good news is that even though this happened 3,500 years ago, we still have on the Torah scrolls the exact letters, the exact spaces, commas, everything is exactly the way God gave it to us. And so now when people are coming to this conclusion that they want the Hebrew perspective, they want to get back to the original words given at Mount Sinai. Well, thank goodness we still have it, and it's been preserved all of these years. And so we are here for you at Torah for the Nations. Just contact us. We can Skype. If you come see us, we'll take you on a road trip. What do they say? Spend some time on Route 99. So we can take you on Route 99. We can get you some, believe me, the pizza's a lot better than it was in the 60s. We'll show you a good time. Just contact us, Torah for the Nations. We'd love to talk to you. Okay, that's all for now.